because I never want to stop improving upon the tools that I have and the way that I organize them, this Mahindra tractor, because it is my favorite of all tools, I just recently put on these traps for putting on shovels or other handled equipment on there with these little springed tie downs, which are awesome. The video for that I'll link below. This little pull pin, which allows me to fold back this top because this garage is bigger than the place where my tractor actually lives at night. And this toolbox is what comes factory on the Mahindra tractors. This is a 1626. Other models probably have different ones, but this is shallow. This is maybe 1.5 inches deep, about 12 or 13 inches long, and about 4.5 inches wide. So you can put a couple wrenches in there and some things to get you through, but not a lot. And it's plastic, so eventually I will break this. I know I will. That's just who I am. And so I looked at all the spaces on this, and this cross member here in the back between the two seats, when the two seats are folded toward each other, there's just about 6 or 8 inches between the two of them. And I have an affinity for these ammo cases, which I collect and have tons of them all over my garage. I love storing stuff in them. They're great. They're pretty much indestructible, but I also like things to match the coloring. So I found this magical Rust-Oleum gloss protective enamel, and this is the color Sunrise Red, which is pretty darn similar to the Mahindra Red. And I actually, when I put the winch on the tractor, you can see that it's a slight different color, but this piece of metal here, that is painted this Sunrise Red. They're both a little dirty, so if I wipe down a little bit on there, you can see that both are pretty hard to tell the difference in color. So once that paint fully dries and sets and has a little patina from the dirt, they're pretty much indistinguishable from the Mahindra Red. So I took it upon myself to find this little ammo case in my collection. I'm in the middle of putting this foam, which if you followed along for the Jeep project, the Jeep has a back decking system. So if you've missed all this content, you have been missing out. So in this, I built a camper out of the back of the Jeep, stove, kitchenette, the whole 9 yards. And these drawers are under this decking system, which allow me to sleep on top of it. This is marine, so this is made for boats, carpeting, and underneath it is a layer of foam. So this actually has a good amount of compression. And I had a little bit of extra. I know, you'll get more snacks later. I had a little bit of extra, and because I really do like the idea of keeping the inside of an ammo case or any kind of toolbox a lighter color, especially ones you might use at night, I figured let's paint it white, or let's better yet put foam in the inside of it so that I can capitalize on the reduction of noise from rattle, and this will allow some compression to pin tools and things in place that are inside it. I'll lose a little bit of volume for sure, but not enough for me to really care about it. My concern really is can I reduce the rattling of all of the extra nuts and bolts. Along with that, I have this blue thread locker here, which I will lock this through the holes that I've already drilled in the bottom. And these little bolts that I have pre-established the washer and rubber grommet bit on. So those rubber grommets will be used to compress against the tractor to help reduce the vibration going into it, and that Loctite will be on this nut at the bottom to make sure it doesn't vibrate out. And if you don't have yourself a drawer somewhere in your collection that you fill with all of the things from Harbor Freight, you should get one. This whole drawer, well, less these, is probably about $35, but it comes with the assortment of nuts, bolts, and washers, screws that are anchored, and these are all grade 8. These are wall anchors, assorted rubber grommets, that's what I use for these. And again, you can use these for all sorts of stuff. A couple of dollars for some extra tools, some extra consumables, so to speak, and some copper washers along the way. Highly recommend having a drawer full of things like that. It makes DIY projects a lot easier, and they're cheap to get on hand. So I am waiting for this, which is the foam, to dry with the adhesive. So I used a Krylon, I think it's a 7010. It is this one, same one I used. Yeah, it's this all-purpose 7010 spray adhesive. I sprayed it on the back side of those, and that was just to get it to stick to the inside. And as you can see, I'm just using magnets inside it to pin it against there, just to make sure that that stick stays so that the adhesive will nicely mate to those surfaces. And I decided while I was letting it dry, I'd make some content for all you guys who might be curious about the next projects. So that one's going on, as well as this company has sent me this jump starter, Foxspeed, and this is just a giant battery bank. So not only can you charge it with USB-C, it has a DC barrel output along with these USB outputs, and it has an engine start and a flashlight. So this is actually a really helpful tool. So if I push and hold that button, I believe is the flashlight. Yep, push and hold it again, and the flashlight goes off. But this is a fairly large capacity battery, and I already have another jumper, which is actually a supercapacitor, which I keep in my vehicle. So there's no charge in the supercapacitor, so I actually prefer supercapacitors over these if I'm gonna be traveling in my vehicle, because they might get hot. So what I'm gonna do with this is find a clever way to mount it. Well, look at that, it would fit perfect in this little toolbox should I reposition what's inside it. So I'm gonna flop that right in there with all that junk out of there and put a little barrel connector into the side of this. And then through this little hole here, I'm gonna feed a wire up and through to the top of the roll bar and have these two lights. There's a spotlight and a floodlight. They will run parallel to each other, and the mounts that they have allow them to rotate 180 degrees. So if I want it to face backwards or forward, I can just stand up, loosen the little nut and flip it over backwards and face it the other direction. But I don't really like wiring stuff to the battery of the tractor, so I can run this off of the auxiliary battery that I'll keep inside the old toolbox and have it charge from the tractor, be able to charge my cell phones, and have a flashlight should I need it on the tractor. And obviously I carry a flashlight, I have my phone has a flashlight. This is kind of just a novelty extra, but you know what? If you have it, why not use it? So this is my idea for expanding on these. If I decide that I don't like that battery pack in here and I'd prefer the space pack, yeah, I could just hardwire it back and have these lights that are powered through the battery system that's on the tractor also power those same spotlights. So those are the upcoming things for the tractor. I usually don't stitch too many videos together. I just did for the solar air conditioner that I installed, but this one I'll do a similar effect where I'm just showing you the before steps before I put this box in and before I put its little foam base in over the nuts on the top. And I will then mount those lights, mount the battery, mount the toolbox, and I'll snap to the end of this so you can see what it looks like completed. So I've completed the, well, not completed. I should say I've gotten most of the wiring is done. I want to get a new wire for this. I'll get one that's packaged or bundled 2 wires within the rubber packet because I didn't have the seal for it. I had the shrink tubing where I combined the 2 together here and I just stuck it on. I got these bar clamps on the top to hold the lights. They are mounted, and then I just ran the extension wire down to right here. And like I said, it's a DC barrel pin connector. It's just makeshift for right now. And that's the lights. The toolbox, as it was attached, it's not that hard to put in, but it's kind of a pain in the butt if you're putting it in the same spot. So I have 2 pre-drilled holes in the toolbox, and I used the existing holes that were here on the cross member. And there are 2 places where it's actually quite difficult to get into. And you can kind of see up in there where those bolts are. And then that bolt there is behind a little plate, so it's really difficult to get to. So with a lot of dropping and fiddling around, I was able to get it in there. But this is the toolbox, and I have it foam lined. I've got my toe strap, gloves, extra pins and connectors, and hydraulic Teflon, and all the fun tapes and things that I need while I'm out in the tractor. So that is the toolbox. So I've got a nice little toolbox in there. I've got my little brackets to hold my shovels, and now my favorite part of it all, actually I should turn the lights off in here because that'll make it way more dramatic. So you can see the real effect of putting this, the overhead lights will be on, that one will be on. But you can see driveway is pretty dark, and right now I just have it on a barrel pin connector, so I'll obviously put in a switch eventually, and then bam, look at that, light that up. And those are the 2. There's a floodlight and a spotlight. You can kind of see the luminosity is a little different between the 2. But that's what I'll effectively get to troll around on the tractor with. The other part of this, I think I mentioned at the beginning of the video, which is this is a jumper. So I'll have this on the tractor, and these won't draw any anything from the tractor's battery or electrical system, which I'm a big fan of. I like independently powered things. And then I can just charge this if need be. It should last a couple of hours, but that being said, if I ever need to jump the tractor or need the flashlight that isn't on the tractor, it's got one of those too. And I can charge my phone on it or other things if I wanted to as well. So pretty cool all together. It is a slick little deal. I now have lights on the tractor, the toolbox, and now I can take all of this material, which is what I made a YouTube short about earlier today. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Not really, but there is a little chicken house. It's an outdoor chicken run with a baby chickie out of just spare materials, and that is like another dimension of light coming off that tractor. That is so bright. It's awesome. And this is my little strap. So if you're ever trying to put a trash can on your bucket, one of these little straps, clip it on, wrap it around the can, and that'll go. About to take the trash out. Try out these new lights. Harbor Freight lights, Fox Speed thingy, and just a regular military surplus store ammo can. Make your tractor a little bit more fun. Have a little fun doing some DIY. And if you're doing this wiring and you use these little heat shrink tubing, I'm not gonna lie, this seems like a novelty tool. The heat gun that literally chews DeWalt batteries up. But this tool here, the DCE530, I use this all the time and it is so handy. Highly recommend.